by the Titusville City Council meeting.
Welcome to the May 10th, 2022, I got my wrong notes out there, CRA meeting. We do have a quorum, so I'll call this meeting to order. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? And the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Clerk, could you read the rules to speak?
Yes. Individuals wishing to speak on agenda items must complete a sign-up card prior to the item being introduced. Sign-up cards are available on the table in the council chamber. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions and requests from the public present. No sign-up card is required. Citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on all agenda items. All sign-up cards and exhibits being submitted to City Council shall be placed in the box on the table in the council chamber.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the CRA minutes of the April 12th, 2022 CRA meeting?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Opposed? Minutes are passed. City Manager.
Good evening, CRA and board. The first agenda item this evening is item 6A, which is the Titusville Playhouse Incorporated Future Development Update. The Titusville Playhouse Incorporated has purchased property in the Palm Avenue and Julia Street area and plans to expand the theater presence within the downtown. Representatives of the Titusville Playhouse Incorporated will provide an update on the recent activities and their proposed plans. So, Stephen, I think that's you.
Showtime, as they say at the Playhouse.
Good evening. I'm Katie Ball, President of the Titusville Playhouse Board of Directors, most of whom are joining me here tonight for this presentation. Mayor Diesel, Vice Mayor Jordan, and members of the CRA, thank you for this opportunity to update you on the Playhouse's plans to create a performing arts hub that will be a catalyst to downtown redevelopment. Over the past year, Titusville Playhouse has been laying the foundation for the creation of an arts district in our downtown. We have acquired nearly 2 acres of additional property on which we hope to build the flagship venue. We have hired the best in the business to help us engage the community, assess the possibilities, and understand our growing city's needs. They are helping us develop strategies for success and ensure what we build will become a cultural asset this community will be known and admired for. Stephen Herron, TPI's Executive Artistic Director, will summarize where we are today.
Thank you.
Hi guys, how are you doing?
How are you?
Great. Just quickly, pre-COVID, we were about 39,000 visitors through our doors at the Titusville Playhouse. Since this year, our season actually started in August of 21. We are currently at 31,000, so we're back. As you can see, our slide, we're threatening we're back, but we're back, and we are actually doing great. Since January alone, we've had 19,106 visitors through the door. Wow. So that's incredible, and we're very excited about that. We do want to continue to grow, and we're looking to grow our community outreach as well. And we don't want to grow the theater. We want to grow with concerts, comedy, dance, symphonic, and create a thriving and lively downtown atmosphere. And we've engaged a consultant called Theater Projects to help us with that, and they're doing the community outreach, and Marcia Getke is going to talk a little bit about the community engagement program we've had.
Good evening.
Good evening.
That's my slide. Okay, thanks. As mentioned before, Theater Projects is our consultant on hand that's been doing a fantastic job looking at what the opportunities are, what the theater currently has, and what we have the opportunity to become, comparing us to other similar sized markets and competitive markets, and helping us create quite a vision for the future. And it has gone really, really well. We've had over 650 responses to our electronic survey, which is a pretty good number, we think. Those sometimes don't get much engagement, but people have been very participatory. We had 3 in-person sessions trying to reach as many people as possible and got great feedback. Overall, everyone has been incredibly excited about the opportunity, and we just have gotten some draft information back from the consultants. And so most everything was super excited about the future of Titusville. Can't wait to have a state-of-the-art theater that performs a diversity of shows. Certainly they're concerned about infrastructure challenges, as we all are, but all in general, everyone is very supportive and very positive. And I think the consultants came away recognizing how committed this community really is to this idea and to the idea of a cultural arts center in our community. And at this point, I'm going to let Bob Dillow, also a board member, talk a little bit about the facility side of the planning of the facility side of it.
Evening. Over the past year, TPI has acquired about 1.88 acres in addition to what they already owned. This is next to the theater area down there on Juliet Street. And what that's going to allow us to do is to expand into a multi-venue type site. So we're not just focusing on one type of thing, but things that will contribute to the community in a number of different ways. Theater Projects was selected, as was previously mentioned, to help us go forward in this, and they're helping us do a number of different studies, guiding us through what we need to figure out to make sure we're doing the right things for the community as we move forward, and not just what we think is the right things for the community. Over the next few months, they'll continue doing analysis and feasibility studies, assessments. Detailed business and program discussions will occur with the theater board and with the community. Okay. We've selected HKS Architects in Orlando as the company of choice to develop the master plan for sequencing our development and helping us make sure that we get the most value out of what we have and get the most for the space that we have available to us. TPI is actively engaged right now in discussions with our neighbors to make sure that any impacts are in a positive manner, not necessarily, not something that would be considered negative. So we're trying to get discussions involving those people and making sure that we grow properly. Next slide. As we continue to plan, we've decided to proceed with some of the first steps in this direction. And the summer TPI will initiate a $1.2 million initial phase to implement long-range development vision, okay? This includes hopefully money from the CRA to help us work on the 2 historic homes that were recently purchased, the old hotel and the old grocery store down there. Rush Facilities is going to facilitate the oversight of making sure that those meet the expectations for appearance as well as long-term usability. And initial parts of that include replacing the roofing, doing some exterior improvements, repairs, stucco, painting, those type of things like that. TPI will also begin design and permitting for the site improvements and the relocation of the Schuler stage. We intend to relocate that over near the Parish Theater, opening that entire site for future development of the main facility, the new theater that we're at currently. But we will continue to engage with our architects and our partners to make sure those are the right things to do. We have agreed to lease the FEC unused paved lot down there that's in the fence right next to the railroad tracks. And they've agreed to allow us to turn that into parking. As we grow the venue, we're going to need additional parking spaces, and that will help provide some of those needed spaces downtown. Okay.
Thank you.
It is often said, go big or go home. We're here to tell you tonight that we are going big and we are staying home. We have 3 requests to make of the CRA. The first is to please assist our efforts to preserve and adapt the historic buildings we have acquired as part of our expansion program. The second is to embrace the objective of a downtown arts district in your updated redevelopment plan. Support and help us bring renewed life to the portion of the CRA that lies west of Hopkins Avenue. And the third is to authorize Mayor Diesel to provide us letters of support to accompany our 2 grant applications on June 1st to the Florida Division Arts and Culture. The first is to support our request for a state grant to assist our planned construction of a new site for the Schuler stage adjacent to the Emma Parish Theater. We are not asking the city to obligate to any direct support at this time, only to support TPI's plans for its Performing Arts Hub as a transformational initiative for the downtown. The other support, our annual ask to the Division of Arts and Culture for general program support to assist our operating program, which you have supported in the past. Thank you, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? City manager or city attorney, we would have to go through the process. If I was to be able to write a letter of support, would that be a later time, or how would that work?
So if you're going to do anything on behalf of the city, you would require the city or the CRA to take a vote.
So That would be a council vote.
It's gonna come from the council, it'd be a council. If the CR, if they're asking for a CRA, it would be a CRA. I wasn't sure which body they're asking to support the grant.
Yeah, I think ultimately when she says Mayor Diesel, I
said
think
there'd
that's
be a
representative
council.
of the city. So we,
And you could bring that up at the council
okay.
meeting.
all right, just checking on that. Member Nelson?
And do we, if we wanted in our development plans for the CRA, what do we need to do? I'm not sure if I'm asking Mr. Broom or Mr. Ford.
Please repeat your question.
So if we were interested in having the Arts and Cultural District in our CRA plan, that's something we need to do, how would we do it?
Well, tonight on one of the last items on the agenda is a presentation by the consultant to talk about the amendment to the redevelopment plan. And I
Okay.
believe when you listen to him talk about it, there will probably most likely, as I've seen the presentation, there'll be something about creating an arts district in that west area of the CRA. And so you would need to reinforce that with your input to them.
Okay, can do.
Member Aker?
What type of parking, when you said that there's going to be additional parking, do you have numbers on what that space would provide? And what impact, how much more parking you see you're going to need on a nightly basis? Because right now you're filling it up, so we're obviously going to have to get some more
Right.
parking.
We know that there's going to be additional needs until we finish our look in our assessments as to what venues and what we're actually going to end up with down the road. We're not going to know an exact number of what we're looking at for spaces. With the size theater and everything that we're hoping, the availability of 3 total venues that we are hoping to have, that number could be significant. But until we finish the study, we won't know for sure. We are looking at other options in addition to that parking area or that area down there that we plan to lease. The total number of spaces in that area, we're not going to know. We're just now getting access to it. So we're going to have to do a look at it, some measurements. They can make sure that we properly, put in the right number of spaces in distribution, then we can give you a better answer on the number of spaces available in that specific.
Yeah, 'cause that's going to be a priority going
It is a
forward.
priority.
If you're going to add another 500 seats and you got an evening where you got 700 seats or 800 seats full.
Right, and we understand that, and that is a common topic of discussion at our meetings, is how do we make sure that we can accommodate what we hope to be a large number of people visiting, our town, Titusville.
And what would be a projected time frame where you would hope to have a secondary, the larger facility up and running, 2, 3, 4?
It's about 2 years, 2.5 years.
5-year.
All right,
Okay.
that would make sense.
Yeah.
I'm more optimistic.
You're contractors.
I have to work on design. I'm more realistic.
No, I'm just very excited about the project personally. I think it's something that Titusville will benefit from all the way around. So I'm very excited about it.
Oh, no, this is huge.
Yeah, this is
This is a
huge.
really big deal for our downtown.
Right.
Certainly, I'm a big
Yeah.
fan and support the project.
Right. And with everything going on out at the Space Center and other places around here, something like this is needed to attract the talent that our, new partners out there are going to expect to bring in, instead of them going to Orlando, Daytona, wherever. We'd like for them here in town. I like to benefit from that myself. So.
Hold on a second, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, just a couple of questions, and it's more of the financial side. I noticed that there was $1.2 million to start this whole thing. Do you already have that, or is that part of the request?
No, we're not coming for, the only thing
No,
we're
I
coming
know
to,
not from us, but do you
Yes.
have the $1.2 million to?
we have considerable amount of money in the bank currently. We actually we have that money in the bank to cover that at the moment.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
All
But we will have a financial, we will have a fundraising study happening later this year as well,
Right.
bringing consultants that will just help us with that area as well.
A guesstimate of how much, I assume you're going to do this in phases, of course. So
Yes, sir.
A guesstimate for the first phase, you have any idea for the first facility?
The first facility phase, No clue yet because we're waiting on all the consultants' information to come back to us to let us know really what the community can support, whether it's 500 seats, whether it's 700 seats. So once we get all that information in, we will then meet again and we'll figure out actually what sizing and pricing and all that stuff comes from that.
Yeah, one of the things I really like, just the idea that we're talking about an art district.
Right.
I mean, it's culture for sure, and it put a smile on everybody's faces when they hear art district for sure. So really excited that you all are taking on this animal because it's huge for sure. It could make a big difference.
And I mean, the goal is that we have all forms of art represented.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the arts district should be a hub and a place for everyone to come and get excited about.
Right.
Food, restaurants, everything. So that's our goal. That's our hope.
Yeah, I'm glad you're going that direction because it will cost a great deal of money, not only to build it, but to operate it.
Correct. Yes.
That's the big thing, the operation of it, because you're going to have funds continually to make sure this happens.
Right. I'm sure most of you don't know our current operating budget at the Playhouse is reaching about $2 million a year at the moment, which is crazy. The little Titusville Playhouse is but part of the consultant's assessments is operating budget for the first 5 years after we open each new facility.
Okay, thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.
Member Ball.
I just want to elaborate on Bob's comments and Stephen's answer to the vice mayor that the first phase or the initial phase is what we're describing as the $1.2 million investment, and $250,000 of that is in the renovation of the two historic structures, which of course we're hopeful that the CRA will help with. And then the remainder of that is in the state grant, of which we have to have the money to match that in hand right now, and we do. In fact, we have the full amount, but we'll seek $300,000 from the state.
I just reiterate what everybody else said. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the effort. Thank you for what you do for our city and downtown. I can't imagine what it would be like with you not there, and I can only imagine what it's going to be like as you grow. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate that. City Manager.
Yes, sir. We're on to old business, which is item 7A, hanging basket presentation and a pilot program. And the Director of Public Works, Mr. Cook, is here to provide CRA presentation.
Yep. So I'm not doing a presentation. We're just going to do a discussion and update. Didn't want to show you pictures, the same pictures. But yeah, so basically we went back after the last discussion of plastic plants and came back with two options that our staff came up with, and the first being a pilot program the city manager talked about. So we could take 8 of our poles. We have 63 currently that can hang a basket. So we would take a portion of the first block here, fire headquarters and city hall, put up 4 Florida native and 4 Florida friendly live plants. Streets has come up the way to irrigate an aerial basket. At least most places, not all of them can be. We'd have to punch into our poles and into irrigation, but it can be done. We can set that up, run it for a period of time, evaluate it with our current maintenance staff without the contractor's assistance, see what that looks like at the end, make a decision for expanding to the remaining poles, see how the plants grow, how they live, how they handle the environment. The other option that I would tell you my maintenance foreman likes better is to take whatever money was going to be allocated to the hanging baskets, about $35,000, apply that to on-ground landscaping, already covered by our maintenance contract, already irrigated, and his thought would be to go to a more annual color-based plantings instead of all the green that we have now throughout the primary core and the entry coreways. He liked that better. We can do that with the contracts we already have in hand with maintenance. It wouldn't generate more maintenance. It also alleviates streets. If you've been around for a hurricane, we take all these baskets down and store them during a hurricane, which means every plant will die. They won't go back up for probably 2-3 months because we're also the cleanup crews for hurricanes. And the last large season, we were out of service for about 120 days doing other cleanups. So we can't maintain these plants once they're down. They'll be replanted every hurricane season. So that's, like I said, my maintenance foreman, his preferences, let him put more landscaping on the ground on the US 1 corridor, both sides. I just thought it was pretty heavy in the downtown core, a little lighter as you head South Street out, and then probably heavier again at Grace for the entry. That's his preference. His evaluation was mainly based on that wouldn't cost him any more maintenance or modifications of our systems. That would mean we wouldn't put the baskets back up. They're all set for replacement anyway, so there's no loss on the side of equipment. They're currently stored, so they all can be disposed of instead of replaced. So, and it would be a net $0 because we would take whatever funds were allocated, put it into the landscaping. Probably wouldn't use nearly that much if we do our own manpower landscaping. If we do contract out, it would probably take about to do a large package landscaping.
So your first thought was go from the fake to the real, right?
Yep.
And then you were try to make them, and you said something about native and Florida friendly.
Yeah, we were going to split them half Florida native, half Florida friendly. The Florida friendly ones, our foreman feels he can find a better palette of desirables hanging than he can in native. So he wanted to see, put them both out there, see which one does well. Also your opinion on how they look in the baskets. Then the decision be made at a period 30, 60 days out. We can come back with maintenance numbers, cost, everything for full-blown all 63 baskets, including replacing the basket. For the pilot, we would reuse the best ones we have. We'd probably paint them, put them back out. So that was his thought process on the pilot. So that would be the option one. They would all be live pants. They'll all be irrigated. Our street maintenance guys came up with a way to pull that off. It would be running water up the poles, so you would see some drilling into the poles and such, but these are handholds we're using for power now.
Well, I certainly like the effort moving into the live plants. It sounds like there could be some difficulties, but I think it's worth trying to see how it works, because have we not tried that before?
Initial plantings were live, yes. The first baskets that went up were live plant throughout the entire court.
And we struggled with that, or?
They didn't live through the season of they were up, and they were replaced later with the artificial plants used in other cities. That's what was replaced. I think we were on 6 years of artificial plants. But yeah, the initial was a package. And they were more annual flowers, harder to see because you're down below them. So annual flower goes up, not out. So we could change what we're putting in there. We could buy the live version of the artificials and see if they'll grow the same. We would come back, like I said, the preference being Florida friendly to give more options versus native. So, but we would do 4 of each was the plan in a pilot program.
Well, I appreciate the pilot program moving to the live plants and trying the native plants. And I'm not the expert to say what would thrive and what wasn't, but if we, maybe talk to some people, and I know you've talked to some people, but with that, Member Aker.
On the hanging plants in the cities I've been in, they look great when they're just draping flowers over the side, and that's a very hard thing to keep looking like that day in, day out, week in, week out, and it's very easy for those to look not healthy, not attractive. So I actually kind of like the idea of putting more funds into the ground as opposed to the hanging baskets. I just don't think there's any way to do that. The fake ones look fake. They don't really catch your eye. The real ones just are going to be, like you said, a real maintenance challenge unless we're really wanting to jump in and change those things out every month to keep the flowering up there. I think I'd be more in favor of diverting the funds to the ground the way that they
Yes, so we checked with a couple cities that actually have a lot of planters. They're higher end cities, and they actually replant 3 to 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Well, good. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I was blessed not to be at the last meeting when this was discussed, to be honest with you. But I certainly got a lot of emails about this. And I'm really not in favor of going through and trying to figure out if a plant is going to live or die. And we've done it before. It didn't happen. I assume you actually had some type of watering system with the live plants or no?
Yes, sir. We had purchased the wagon and a watering system. We didn't have them irrigated at the time. So.
Yeah, see, that's, when you're in business, when you start doing stuff like this, high maintenance and all that good stuff, I certainly, and I'm glad you came up with the option, I certainly would like to see things eye level. So I'm more with getting potted plants from Pentas. Pentas really do really well in this hot sun for sure. I'm certainly not into plastic plants because, as the doc said, they look like plastic, and so we're trying to make things look pretty, but in fact, it's kind of chintzy, if you ask me. So I'm in favor of us going with live plants that are on the ground, that is less maintenance for sure. You can certainly have the watering because you already have it there for sure. And make sure they're perennials instead of annuals. And so you don't have to replace them every year for sure, in my opinion. So that's where I am with it.
Member Stokel?
Well, now they already said what I was going to say. Yes, I'm not in favor of the hanging baskets after our last discussion and then the information you brought back and leaving here, driving through. I just don't think that they're going to be worth the money, in all honesty.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Member Nelson?
I'm going to agree also. I think the second option is a lot better than the hanging plants. After about a year, they look horrible, and there's no way you can stop them from looking plastic. So I would go for option 2.
I'm for live, up on the ground, up high, whatever works. It sounds like you've tried the up high and they don't go very well. But I think it's, from what I've heard up here, it's pretty unanimous, and we got a couple more lights here. I think that Member Aker said it very eloquently. Plastic looks fake. Plastic looks plastic. Member Robinson?
Yes, I understand the argument, but my support is for live plants and see what concentrated effort we can do to make it work. And don't just use a few at first, or go certain particular, and then go forth and see what we can do. And it's a lot of people here who knows how to grow things and take care of things. And reach out to the talent that we have in our city for growing things under unusual conditions and things that are here that are native to Florida. And I think those that are ground level, I think that's a wonderful idea. But I think we should put some in there to follow up with that fake thing. They look fake, and just do your best and let's try it. And reach out to people and let everyone get involved to keep their city beautiful. Everybody, if you're complaining about the artificial plants, and you got talent to grow plants under unusual conditions, become a volunteer. Become a volunteer for your city to keep it beautiful.
Yeah, again, I think as we turn it over the cards here in a minute, I think that we are all looking for real plants, real flowers. Native would be great. You got to wonder if they're native, they might be easier to grow them. I'm not the expert, but that's what it would seem to me. And plastic, again, they look plastic, but when it gets more sun, instead of growing nicely like a real plant, obviously the paint fades and all that stuff. So that's where we're at. I see no more lights up here. Call the cards.
First card's Nathan Slusher.
There we go. There we go. I know, I'm going to ask you, though. Here, go there so everybody else can hear you. Or somebody say it.
All right. Nathan Slusher, 860 Allendale Street. So Mr. Robinson basically said it's time for people to walk the walk. That was the intention tonight, was to bring in something that could be an option for the city. This is purslane. The pink ones on the front are native to Florida. The yellow ones on the back are friendly to Florida.
Real quick, what's that called again?
Purslane, P-U-R-S-L-A-N-E, purslane. It's a very common flower that grows wild here, but it's also drought tolerant. I bought this thing after the last meeting, and I watered it twice. And I bought them, they were little $4 plants from Lowe's, and you could see one of the things that is missing is people go to buy hanging plants on bid or wherever they go to a wholesaler, they buy hanging. Hanging baskets don't do well, or hanging plants don't do well at 12 feet. You need cascading plants, which is what purslane is. So it's going to go down, 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 and continue growing. Mayor, may I approach?
Absolutely, please. Thank you very much.
So it's a daytime flower, which means as soon as I put it in my car to come here, the flower's shriveled up. But in the mornings, you can see what the flowers look like all over. And this one has yellow, candy cane, and pink in it, pink being the Florida native. That way you guys can see what it looks like when it flowers. You can we set it right here?
When do they flower and how often?
In the morning, every morning.
Every morning.
And they change out flowers every morning. So like all the flowers that have died today, or withered, or whatever you want to call it, the new ones are already here for tomorrow.
Very good.
And he gets new flowers every morning. So I wanted to bring an option to the city. I also wanted to address the cost again with real numbers. That is a 22-inch basket. The bid was for 24-inch baskets. That cost $19.99. The 24 cost $39.99. So it's a big difference in cost, even though the basket's only that much bigger, literally that much. That whole thing, everything in it costs $35.63. $35.63. If you did that times 63, it's $22.84.69. If you allowed $50 an hour for someone to do the work in 2 hours per plant, it comes out to $6,300. We are still a long way off from 35 grand. So I wanted to address the cost, because the cost difference of live plants is extremely less. And at that point, you could afford to run micro irrigation lines for the city. So I wanted to address the cost, and I wanted to bring in an option that would work, that is Florida native, Florida friendly, and see what you guys thought of that. Thank you.
Real quick, in the clock. So that can be a hanging plant.
Absolutely, it is.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. I didn't see that. Okay,
porch.
that's what I wanted to see. Okay.
I put it right outside under my awning so that it's partly shaded, partly sun. It's just
Okay.
hanging there.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, that's the question I was going to ask you, because all our plants are in direct sunlight. For sure.
No, they have blue shades now.
Are shaded by the downtown buildings. There are some that are full shade, first of all.
But these have been covered partially.
Mine have,
during the
yeah.
day, right?
But that is a common flower that grows on the side of the road everywhere here.
Of course, we have to look at it and see if that's something.
Yeah, that's actually the plant we used the first time. That's what Tim reminded me.
And they didn't do well?
They didn't do, I don't recall all the issues we had with them, but I will say that a plant that hangs, we still have to trim. Sidewalks are required on state roads to be cleared 8 feet above your head. So we do have some maintenance that goes in anything that hangs aside. DOT does review us quarterly. That is still their street, so we still comply with that. But I mean, if this is the council direction to use them, we certainly can go back and try this. I mean, we're open to anything. It's up to,
Thank you. I like that. Bring it back next time when it's flowering so I can have a morning meeting.
Yeah, we'll have to have a morning meeting, 9 a.m. I'll be here with it.
I'm going to look it up. I like it. I like it a lot.
Mr. Mayor.
Actually, this plant is everywhere. It's actually a weed. And this weed
Don't tell it that.
is a whole it contains all the essential amino acids. Not only that, it has the highest omega-3 content of any plant. So munch away.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, I think again?
Yeah. I just want, we just have to be careful. I actually appreciate you bringing something like that. But I think we've already agreed that we need to go down, less maintenance, less cost, for sure, in a pot, something like that.
Now, just to be
probably in a
clear, you
pot,
hadn't
for sure.
decided that when I went and did
Well,
this.
no, I understand that. No, and really, in defense of you, I appreciate you bringing it. But
Yeah.
to me, bringing it down, less maintenance, less cost, and it'll be even less than what you're saying. So appreciate you bringing it, for sure.
Member Nelson.
I was just going to point out the downtown gallery has that in front of their shop. And they seem to be doing fairly well. So if we wanted to do a trial, we could do it just downtown, maybe do 4 or 5 baskets and see what happens. Yes, that's my suggestion.
We'll go from there. I like it. It looks good. I can't wait to see it in the morning.
Thank you.
Next card.
Mayor,
Kathleen Perez.
just for clarification,
Sorry.
we're hearing on the ground, in the air, or what?
And not for me. I said I'm not an expert. You guys tell me. But I just want real plants. I really like something like that. If it's, I don't like to use that word to it, but if it's like a weed, it's going to grow like a weed. It shouldn't be too difficult to grow. I think
what the floorman told us in the last run is, especially during the heat and exhaust and the asphalt temperatures that were rising and no shelter, that's what probably killed them. And we did water them 2-3 times a day.
And again, I know that doesn't help your up or down, but you know, if you go to Disney World, there's some really great black baskets, but there's also some great on the ground too. So I'm just looking for color and real flowers. I think it'd be great wherever you put them. Next card.
Kathleen Perez.
Kate Perez, 3025 South of Washington Avenue, Titusville. I was here the last time we talked about plastic plants, and it's pretty amazing to see the turnaround, because I was the one who said, did you use Florida natives? And everybody's like, no. Now we all kind of know, yeah, Florida native, why didn't we do that? And the council was kind of like, well, they didn't look good, so we really got to do this plastic thing. That was kind of the consensus up there last time we had this meeting. So I guess it's an example of how involvement by the citizens can actually help this process. I do kind of wonder, though, if we had more people on city council or more people in our government or on the TC who would have, when they said, hey, how about 34,000 for plastic plants, if we had somebody who would have just said, wait a minute, what are you doing? Because that didn't happen up here. It happened out here with some of us. And it seems like we do need more people to understand that we can't keep doing stuff like this. It's terrible for the environment. Trying to do it properly, trying to understand how it works, even if you do have to bring them down, which I think is great, because, you know, something above my head, you know, if it's down here where I can look at it, smell it, watch the butterflies and bees, that's even better. And if it's lower the cost, even better. But we should have gone that way initially, and I'm kind of questioning why we didn't go that way initially, why it was like, yeah, let's get plastic. That doesn't make any sense to me. I brought a plant from my own garden. It looks a little sad because someone weed whacked it. I'm not going to mention who. But anyway, this guy, pardon? No.
Over there.
Yeah, could be. This guy he looks a little sad right now, but this is a plant I have in my house too, as well as outside. It's a type of bromeliad, and it just gracefully flows over. It has pretty white flowers. When it flowers, they smell really nice too. I never water it. I never do anything for it. It's in full sunlight. So I guess a lot of us probably have these things in our yard. If we were asked, we could say, if there were a meeting or some kind of planning where we could say, hey, yeah, I've got one, you know, or 2 or 5. Tom and I have purslane all over our lawn, and we eat it. I think you heard him say that. It's very, very good for you. So just imagine the birds that could eat it and any other kind of things. And when it falls to the ground, if it does fall to the ground, parts of it, it's not plastic that ends up in the lagoon, right? So we should have gone that way first, but I'm glad we're going that way now.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next card.
Stan Johnson.
Stan Johnson. I've been a resident here for 50 years, and I want to appreciate especially what Mr. Cook, his presentation. I was surprised that he was very much pro plants, because plastic plants do have problems. I mean, just like these plastic birds. See, and I was just talking to Mr. Diesel before the meeting and said, is that I had something happen this Sunday. I went by on Harrison Street from the YMCA over to 405, and I saw five rosette spoonbills right there in that retention pond, and they were pink. But unfortunately, see what happens to if we put yeah, that's got it. Pink flamingos out there. What happened is the sun bleaches them.
Yeah.
Now, what is happening is I just got a letter from one of these conservation groups saying is that the oceans are filling up with plastic. And what do we know? what is the effect on plastics? I mean, we have a doctor up here, and it was for a long time is that talcum powder was used on babies and so forth, and in pills, and it found out is that talcum powder causes blindness. And people have taken too much talcum powder in the system, it causes blindness. So we don't know that much about what the plastics are doing. So please consider, let's not go plastic. And let's not make the, flamingos or whatever. I know you didn't want to see that, did you? But,
Well, actually, it's to the point I made that when plastic gets a lot of sun, it does what you're showing right there. It just fades away.
Okay.
So
plastics are just not good. Space coast of nature and gateway to nature and space. We don't need plastic plants.
all right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Next card.
Tony Schiflo.
Tony Schifolo, the historic Norwood House, 715 Tropic Street. I just want to say thank you for your reconsideration and the direction you're moving in about the plants, and I especially appreciate staff reconsidering and taking into consideration a lot of the suggestions that the citizens have been pouring. We won't need these plastic flamingo birds now, will we? Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next card.
There's no more cards.
All right, thank you very much. So really, all we're doing is giving you our advisement. Clearly, we're looking for live plants. Most people, I think, said on the ground, if they work better there. I'm for top, bottom, wherever, as long as they live and flower in the morning. So.
All right, well, we'll get our foreman to work on the plan and get a transfer at the next meeting to move funds over for our use. And
Then we will run the pilot for a little while, report back to council and CRA as to how.
Okay. Thank you, City Manager.
On to item 8A, which is ordinance number 14/2022. And this is the first reading, second reading, sorry. So the city attorney will read this, and you will review and make a recommendation to city council.
Actually, to be clear, it's going to be the second reading and public hearing before council. This is for your recommendation, but I'll read the title for those in attendance so they do hear it. An ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances to permit car rental agencies as a limited use in downtown mixed-use district, DMU, Midtown Subdistrict, by amending sections 28-54 use table and 28-107 car rental agencies, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, an effective date, and for incorporation into the code.
The Planning and Zoning Commission considered this ordinance on 6 April 2022 and unanimously 7-0 recommended adoption, striking the prohibition against recreational vehicles. In August 2021, City Council directed staff to review Section 28-107 requiring rental agencies as a conditional use in the Midtown Subdistrict of the downtown mixed-use district. In response to council's request, the staff reconsidered the need for conditional use in the Midtown Subdistrict. Staff has developed an ordinance establishing car rental agencies as a limited use. The proposed standards are in your packet for your consideration. And again, this is just your recommendation to the city councils, which you will get this at your next meeting.
Staff, anything you want to add?
No, sir.
Council, any board, any questions? Cards.
There's no cards.
Well, we don't need a motion here, so we just give our advisement. I'm for this, obviously. I think that this is much needed and moving in the right direction. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I assume we should make a motion.
Yeah, there would be a motion whether
send it
to
over,
recommend
right?
approval or denial.
Okay, I'd like to make that one.
Go ahead, sir.
Is that the motion?
Wait, stop. Okay, member, you have anything else?
No, I was going to second it.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Mr. What are you doing?
Just go with it.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve or send to council ordinance number 14-2022.
I have a motion.
Second.
Vice Mayor motion, Member Nelson second. Roll call vote on this one.
Member Aker?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Chairman Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Chair Jordan?
Yes.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Sokol?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. City Manager.
On to item 8B, which is 422 Julia Street CRA facade grant. And this is a commercial beautification grant. And staff recommends approval of the commercial beautification grant in the amount of $40,000 to the Titusville Playhouse Incorporated for the property located at 422 Julia Street, and authorize the city manager to execute the grant agreement. And staff is available to answer any questions that you may have on this beautification grant.
Staff?
I just wanted to add that the Historic Preservation Board heard this case at their May 2nd meeting and recommended approval with some minor conditions.
And I guess we'd want to hear those conditions.
Okay, one was to allow the emergency repaired third floor window to remain, provided they put a window seal at the bottom and add the grid so that it matches the window opposite it on the other side of the building, and that the roof replacement not change any of the building parapet, facade, or vents, and that future plans for the proposed Juliet balcony be run by the historic officer to make sure that it's meets the historic requirements as was previously there, and that the colors of the building be white with blue trim.
Okay. Interesting. I don't know that one, but Member Robinson.
I concur with, agree with all of the recommendations, and especially keep it historic as possible.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Member Ball.
Yes, I just want to acknowledge that I am an uncompensated member of the board of Titusville Playhouse. It goes one way. I give money, I don't get money, and I'm not an employee, but because of the optics of the situation, I will not be voting on this matter. I think it's wise for me to recuse myself, so I will.
Thank you, Member Ball. Appreciate that. Anybody else? All right, call cards.
One card, Stan Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Member Robinson?
Oh, I was, motion.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
I make the motion that we approve the communication and beautification grant for 422 Julia Street.
Okay, I have a motion from Member Robinson, a second from Vice Mayor. Roll call vote.
Discussion, sorry.
Discussion, Member Stokel.
Sorry. I just want to clarify, are we doing this with the conditions or without? And is the Playhouse aware of
It's good.
those? And they're okay with the conditions? Okay, then I'm good.
Okay, so the motion was made with conditions. We had the second discussion. Roll call vote.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Chairman Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Chair Jordan?
Yes.
Member Ball?
I abstain.
Member Sokol?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. City Manager.
On to item 8C, which is a commercial beautification grant for 428 Julia Street. Staff recommends that you approve a commercial beautification grant in the amount of $40,000 to the Titusville Playhouse Incorporated for the property located at 428 Julia Street, and authorize the city manager to sign the grant agreement.
And I would add that the Historic Preservation Board ruled on a certificate of appropriateness for the improvements with approval with conditions. Again, the roof placement not affect the design of the overall facade, that detailed plans of the storefront be submitted for approval before it's permitted, that all glass be clear, and that the bulkheads remain the same, and that the awning that they're proposing must fit within the storefront opening and not expand past it, and it shall provide a cut sheet of the gooseneck lighting for administrative approval.
Okay, pretty much the same. Anybody here have anything? Call the cards.
One card, Stan Johnson.
Thank you again, sir. Motion?
Mr. Mayor, Chairman, and Council, I move that we approve commercial beautification grant for 428 Julia Street.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Jordan, a second by Member Nelson. Roll call vote.
Member Nelson? Chairman Diesel,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jordan,
Yes.
Member Ball,
I will abstain for the same reason cited on the last vote.
Member Stokel,
Yes.
Member Aker,
Yes.
Member Robinson.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you all very much. City Manager.
On to item 8D, which is the CRA redevelopment plan update. The consultant SNME will present findings of the research and public engagement to date in updating the City of Titusville CRA redevelopment plan and ask for input and comments from the board. Public engagement activities have been included: a walk-in workshop on April 14th, 2022, from 10 to 6 p.m. at the Downtown Welcome Center, an online survey and an interceptive map of the CRA, and discussions with staff and other stakeholders within the CRA. SNME will draft a redevelopment plan for the CRA review and recommend approval at the June CRA meeting based on the input from the CRA and SNME's research and findings, which includes a study of existing conditions, plan developments, public input, and proposed strategies. Welcome, sir.
We have John Jones from SME.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Diesel, Vice Mayor Jordan, ladies and gentlemen of the CRA Governing Board. My name is John Jones, SNME 1615 Edgewater Drive, Orlando, Florida. Tonight, we're going to talk about redevelopment. So tonight's agenda, we're going to talk about the summary of the public engagement, the open house on the 14th, and our online input. We're also going to talk about the proposed redevelopment strategies, introduce those to you tonight. Talk about the proposed redevelopment goals, also the preliminary conceptual plan. We'll take a look at that. And then why we're here tonight is to get y'all's input. We're going to ask you 5 questions to answer, and then talk about what's next. So moving on to the summary of the public engagement. Public engagement included both stakeholder interviews, online input, and also an open house workshop. The open house workshop was a day-long workshop where people could come in, take part in an educational program, and then leave their comments and input, and then go back on their way. It'd take about 25 minutes for them to come in and participate. The online input, there's a project-specific website that is linked on the city's website, so you can get to it from the city's website. The HTTP address is up there. You can see it on the bottom. It's kind of a long web address, but the link is on the city website, so you can just click on the link and go right there. There's a survey that's up right now. There's a schedule of the production of the process and also a map that people can leave comments and also look at comments. We're going to look at all those tonight. And then we've also had interviews with key stakeholders and staff here at the city. Part of the presentation that the folks received at the public workshop included the ABCs of CRAs, the accomplishments of the Titusville CRA, the financial condition of the CRA. We looked at the current conditions, the plan update process and timeline, took their public input, very similar to this meeting. The big questions that were asked were, what places in the CRA do you visit the most and why? What places do you visit the least and why? What are the challenges to the businesses from your perspective? What are the challenges to the neighborhoods from your perspective? And then what amenities would you like to see within the CRA? So the public input that we received from the group, from the folks that participated in the workshop, the most visited places in the CRA. So you can see the list there of all the most visited places in the CRA. The highlighted or the bold names and locations were the ones that recurred the most. So you can see City Hall recurring the most, the Playhouse Theater and the Schuler Stage, and Sandpoint Park being some of the most visited areas. Big question number 2, the least visited areas and why. Here, not as many answers, but the answers also provided a reasoning for their answers. Parks, people were kind of nervous about homelessness and panhandling. Bike paths, people said there was a lack of shade. Downtown during events, there's traffic and parking issues. In the southern portion of the CRA, it's auto-oriented. And in visitor center events, there's a lack of shade trees. And you're going to start seeing some themes pop out, some recurring themes pop out from these questions. The next question we asked was amenities that you would like to see in the CRA. Fine dining was one of them, restaurants, major hotel, the Playhouse Theater expansion, arts education, sidewalks, shade, open space, and also grant funding for small business startups and business support. Big question 4, there we go. Big question 4, what are the challenges for businesses? This is a rather lengthy list, so we've got several slides on this one. The challenges for businesses that were identified at a workshop included insufficient parking, parking. Offices close at night. It's a dead zone after 5. There's competition from Cocoa. Perception that Titusville lacks a variety of amenities. Not enough surrounding retail businesses to support businesses. And too many empty storefronts. The next list of big question number 4, additional challenges for businesses. Vacant storefronts is a recurring theme. Red tape and bureaucracy hindering business openings. Lack of retail in downtown. Pedestrian safety concerns, particularly at night. And then insufficient lighting and insufficient connections. Big question number 4 continues the challenges for businesses, speeding and safety issues for pedestrians, insufficient pedestrian foot traffic downtown, the lack of shared infrastructure for businesses or older infrastructure, and an ugly bridge on 406 was named as one of the challenges. So you're starting to see some themes develop here, pedestrian safety being one of those themes, a lack of activity in the downtown. All right, so moving on to here we go. Let's go back to question 4. There we go. Question 4, and this is the last slide for the challenges for businesses. Challenges were safe crossing over US 1, a lack of shade, complex land development regulations, a need for a quiet train zone, and then local control over US 1. Question number 5 is, what is the perceived challenges for the neighborhoods? And the challenges for the neighborhoods had some big topics that people kept hitting on repeatedly. Housing stock, the need for additional housing within the downtown core area. A lack of available housing units, and housing affordability was suspected as an issue. Homelessness, panhandling, and the transients in the area. Unsafe roadway areas and bike pedestrian travelways. People were concerned for their safety, whether they were walking or riding bicycles in the CRA. And then insufficient lighting near residential areas and within the entire CRA. Additional challenges identified for neighborhoods included environmental challenges, the Parish Park shoreline erosion, wave attenuation, and Parish Park improvements as a potential concern. In addition to the 5 big questions, there was also an open question board. If there was something that someone wanted to make sure was in the public record but wasn't addressed by any of the questions, was an open idea question, the idea corral, where all the ideas go. So the ideas that didn't fit into any particular box included turning off water fountains, or park fountains, pardon me, to minimize risk of water contamination, under-marketed trails, concerns of U.S. traffic increasing with additional development, parking garage alternatives, the Indian River Lagoon is dying, the concern over the saving of the river, and the manatees, and fixing the sewage system, once again, environmental concerns. The need for safe, connected pedestrian pathways and bikeways, popping up again. The need for pedestrian crosswalks, improved crosswalks, signalization and lights, to Sandpoint Park, and planting real trees and not palm trees was the last one on the public engagement idea corral. That sums up the public engagement from the walk-in workshop. Now we're going to look at some of the online engagement and the public input that came from there. So at the website, we've had 620 visitors come there. They've completed 28 surveys and left about 43 comments. The average time that folks are there is about 2 minutes, 20 seconds. The map that you see on the right-hand side of the screen is where people can drag an icon and leave a comment. Each one of those circles represents a comment. The comments came in several categories. They included arts and culture, general comments, housing, new business ideas, parks and open space, and pedestrian and transit. And you can see the distribution of the answers, or the distribution of the comments by topic. The topic that received the lowest amount of questions or comments was housing. We're going to walk through each one of those. So arts and culture accounted for about 17% of the comments. The comments included needing an arts district, making sure the area around the playhouse is welcoming and pedestrian friendly, a public art in the outdoor areas, an Indian River Lagoon Education Center, more free little libraries, and adding musical swing sets. Parks and open space received about 22% of the total comments, and the comments included the CRA should have a signature park. We should include community garden with pollinator gardens. A Scobie Park should be a native plant and living shoreline project. Shade trees are needed throughout with sidewalks. Keep vacant space vacant for viewing launches and install dog waste stations throughout the CRA. Under the comments for pedestrians and transit, they were about 20% of the total comments. Julia Street should be a unified corridor, unified through landscape signage, and possibly made closable on a temporary basis for special events. You should prioritize pedestrian safety in the downtown, larger sidewalks and crosswalk signals. Pedestrian crosswalks are needed at Garden Street to the entrance of Sandpoint Park. Small landscaped roundabout at Indian River Avenue and Broad Street is suggested, and making electric bikes and scooters available in the downtown was also a comment. Regarding new business ideas, that was also about 20%. Non-motorized watercraft, having canoe, kayak, or sail access, and also business and amenities catering to that in the downtown area. A performance center to grow other businesses. More dining options in the downtown. Limited auto-oriented businesses and promote non-auto-oriented businesses. A dog bakery and grooming shop, creating an innovation space for offices, training spaces, and shared workspaces for startups and entrepreneurs. Housing received about 5% of the comments, almost 6%. Comments included setting up a housing clinic that includes job training and a community garden for the homeless to get them out of the parks. Promoting more downtown urban housing. Promoting mixed-use housing products, retail ground floor and housing above. And the housing should reflect the urban character of downtown Titusville. Under general feedback, which is about 17% of the questions or suggestions, included focusing on east-west connections through the CRA, including Julia Street, Main Street, Broad Street. Speeding on US 1 is bad, need more strict enforcement. Homeless and transients are a problem. More trees and green spaces, no plastic plants, and then having free Wi-Fi in the downtown. We're just reading the slides. This is public input. So you start to see some recurring themes happening here. The pedestrian safety being one of the themes. A commitment to the arts, establishing destinations, creating new businesses in the downtown, and supporting new businesses in the downtown. So based on the input we received from the public at the workshop and based on the online input, we've devised 4 overarching redevelopment strategies that kind of guide the day-to-day activities of the CRA. So the day-to-day activities of the CRA, when you're thinking about what to do, it should support planned and program development in the CRA. And we're going to go into each one of these in a little more detail. Should support CRA branding and marketing, making the CRA a recognizable place. When you're here, you know it because of the way the streets are designed, because of the landscaping that you see, because of the architecture of the area. Reinforcing connections, physical connections in the area, and also housing. So these are the big, broad strategies that should address the items of the CRA's actions. We'll go into each one. So supporting planned and program development. You've got a lot of activity on your plate right now. You have a lot of things popping and a lot of wheels in motion right now. The Launch Now mixed-use development is underway. The Titusville Playhouse has some very ambitious, very catalytic plans set up. The Sandpoint mixed-use development is online. And the City Hall and Public Safety Civic Center redevelopment is online as well. So those are going to have significant impact within the downtown area, within your CRA, and affect the businesses and residents. The CRA needs to support these and make sure that these projects come to fruition. Next, CRA branding and marketing. Establishing and reinforcing your character districts that you have. Establishing a Titusville Performing Arts District, your downtown historic residential district, also your downtown civic district, and also your commercial historic district and your uptown district. Reinforcing your historical assets that you have here. You have some very unique historical assets. A lot of communities in Florida would kill to have this history. Enhancing your existing destinations and developing new destinations. Give people a reason to come down here and give people new reasons to come down here. And then establishing and reinforcing your brand through common signage, wayfinding, landscaping, and hardscaping. There we go. Reinforcing connections. Reinforcing connections includes enhanced pedestrian connections, signalized crosswalks, making it safer, east-west streetscapes connecting the CRA, additional bicycle-only paths to connect to the regional trail network. You've got a great regional trail network that connects to the state trail network. Let me get that out. That's a mechanism to bring people into your area. It is an attractor and a destination. Sidewalk gap connections, filling in those gaps. Increased and improved street lighting so that people feel safe when they're walking downtown, when they're coming from a restaurant or coming from the theater, that they feel safe. And then improved wayfinding signage so people know if they walk 2 blocks, there's a restaurant here. If they walk 3 blocks this way, there's a theater here. If they walk downtown, there's a Veterans Memorial Park there. So improving that wayfinding signage will help reinforce those connections. Housing. Strategies under this include improving or increasing the inventory of housing in the downtown, utilizing vacant or underutilized parcels for residential development, providing residential fix-up programs, whether it's a facade program for the outside of the house or a building stabilization program for houses that need to be stabilized. Providing a mix of residential development types, not just single family, not just multifamily, but a range of housing types. Targeted site redevelopment for residential uses, identifying specific sites and marketing those sites for targeted residential development. And then enabling public-private partnerships for residential development as well. The proposed goals, objectives, and policies. So those are the 4 big overarching strategies, kind of what CRAs do, and get your arms around that. And then there's proposed objectives and policies, goals, objectives, and policies. These are day-to-day items. And so these are the 8 big categories that address the day-to-day actions of a CRA. The administration of the CRA. Housing within the CRA, promoting community and culture in the CRA, economic development, public spaces, infrastructure, public health and safety, and regulatory environment. The thing to remember about CRA plans, which I'm sure you're all well aware, that is if a specific task, activity, or strategy is not in your CRA plan, you cannot spend CRA funds on it. You can't spend your TIF funds on it. So you want to cast a wide net. And that's what these GOPs do, is they address a range of different topics that the CRA will face during the next 5 to 10 years and gives you a strategy and tasks and objectives specifically to address these items. Conceptual master plan. The conceptual master plan is kind of like a campaign map, a battle map that shows the CRA and shows where the proposed improvements would go. So you can kind of get your head around the physical location. So here you see the full extent. It's kind of hard to see where the improvements are, but we'll go into each different area here. We'll zoom in on each area. So in the Uptown area, you see improvements include the FDOT roundabout, the long-term roundabout, and the streetscaping associated with that, the installation of a railroad quiet zone there, and also installation of improved crosswalks and improved trail connections, and a gateway feature right there at the roundabout. Moving south into the downtown area, you see Festival Street connections at Main and Broad, making those streets into areas that can be closed off and have a party. You can have a public event there. You would have curbless streets so people wouldn't trip over curbs. You could close it down, have a good time. You also see opportunity sites. Let me see, is there a laser pointer on here? Oh, The opportunity sites are areas that have been identified for economic development and redevelopment. You see the square boxes with the round circles in them. Those are sites that have been identified for the CRA to actively market and seek targeted investment. You also see the quiet zone rail improvements there for each crossing, gateway improvements, and also Vista Park improvements so that people can watch the launches across the Indian River Lagoon. And there you also see the first mention of the Arts District, running with Julia Street in the center, 1 block north, 1 block south, 2 blocks east, 1 block west. Heading further south, you can see the Quiet Zone Railway gates. You can also see the gateway improvements, and also crosswalk improvements and trail improvements, and also Vista Park improvements suggested for pocket parks, so you can look out over the Indian River Lagoon as well. All right, so that being said, you've heard the community engagement from the workshop. You've heard about the public engagement from the online input. Now it's time to get y'all's input. I have Miss Jaleesa Harris here with me tonight, who's a speed writer. She's going to write as fast as she can. Hi, Jaleesa. Hello. So we have these 5 questions. What areas do you visit the most? What areas do you visit the least? What areas, or I should say, what do you see as challenges for the businesses? What do you see as challenges for the residents? And then what amenities would you like? So at this time, Mr. Mayor, we would like to ask for your input.
We're looking for a button or two here? No?
Okay.
There we go.
I'll do it.
Surprised there's not 8 of them. Remember, Nelson?
Okay, I'll be first up.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we need to put in an arts district, or is that something that we already have in there?
I'm sorry?
Arts district. Art district.
Yes.
Do we need to put it in there, or is this covering it?
This,
Are we covered?
it will be in the plan. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But yes, you can, if you wish to support the establishment of an arts district, heard.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I hope you're not asking us to answer these questions.
Oh, ma'am.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
You are?
No, if
Okay.
you don't have to answer them all. If there's something that's really pressing that this has to be there, that's what this is for.
I would
And then if anything comes in later, you can send me an email and we'll get it in the
I would say our challenge is US 1. That even when you're downtown and even with everything we've done, if you're sitting outside on the sidewalk and that traffic comes by, it's still scary.
Yep.
So the amenities I would like to see are lighting, and the lighting going between east to west. Because it is a little scary down there at times. I'd love to see pocket parks. So those are things I would like to see.
I can go ahead and add, and we talked about Cocoa Village earlier. I'm in a position right now as an interim principal at an elementary school in downtown Cocoa, and so I drive down there every day, and it's a different beast. We have US 1, and until we can get more things on the side streets, it's difficult because every time I drive down there, I think it's Brevard Street I turn on. It's very slow. It's very narrow. It's very relaxed. It's very chilled. We don't have that chilled feeling down there. And really, I know that's kind of silly, but we've got to slow everything down to be a downtown. And everything's fast. And you drive through, people drive through fast, you walk through fast. I will say, driving through just yesterday, it's like, wow, there's more people down here. This is great. But even then, you're looking over your shoulder. You can't really wander into the street. That's, to me, the biggest problems. We got a logistical traffic problem to turn it into something that looks like Cocoa Village. And I'll stop there. We could be here all day on something like this. But Member Stokel.
I don't know if I'm answering those questions necessarily, but one of the topics that gets brought up a lot is our parking. And we've done numerous parking studies, and it shows that we have ample parking. So my concern is that parking is not clearly identified, that people that are coming into the city don't know where they can park. I think that there's a perceived expectation that they can park and then just go to the business right there. Like if we can make the walking more scenic or more expected, because I think we do have parking, it's just not, I don't know, I struggle with that one a lot. And then the other thing that frustrates me is our business turnover. We have a lot of businesses that are very hopeful that want to come in and open, and then there's not enough customer base. And then COVID obviously did not help with that. And then so they get frustrated, they shorten their hours because they can't. And then we have people come in, and then guess what? The businesses aren't open.
Right.
And so we keep going back and forth. And I don't know, I wish I had the proper solution for it, but anything that we can do, and I know we do business grants up here, trying to help support businesses, but that's my biggest frustration is I think we have people that really want to invest in the city, and then they get frustrated. And I think we have citizens that really want to come downtown and spend their money, but then they get frustrated, and how can we mesh those two together is something that I would like to see.
Okay, heard.
And again, I'll play off of that real quick because that's what I get to do, is the lighting. I remember when I first got on here in 16, I and some others were, it's dark down there. It's dark. And we've put a lot of lighting down there. But as I can see there, we can use more. But the lighting has improved a lot. Clearly, we need more. Member Aker.
The lighting in the back parking, the commons parking in the back, it's tremendous. I mean, you go out that night, it is well lit. You do not feel unsafe. And I think it's a matter of just taking those large lights and taking them further. My biggest concern has always been parking in the downtown, convenient parking. Yes, we have lots of parking over on Broad Street, but we're not going to get people to walk across Broad Street, walk across US 1. In the past, we've entertained the ideas of rerouting US 1. There's a couple of options for that, but it's very complicated. We were told as a CRA a couple of times, you do that and you will die because of the business's exposure goes down. I don't know if that's true or not, or whether we want to even look at revisiting the rerouting of it towards downtown. For me, the biggest thing is number one, slowing the traffic. Well, number one is parking. Number two is slowing the traffic down, make it more walkable.
Member Ball.
I agree with those, but I might reverse the order slightly because I think it's so great that we have such a big turnout for people to hear about downtown redevelopment and planning. I just love it. I love it. No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I think that one thing in the plan, and if you go back and look at the previous plans, you see goals and objectives that aren't unlike some of the ones we're talking about now, and how to slow traffic and pedestrian friendly and all those kind of nice cliches, if you will, that are great for downtown plans. But the reality is that the jurisdictional issue gets in our way, and I don't know that a planner can solve that, but you need to face it head on, that if we can't work with Florida Department of Transportation to figure out the right tools to slow, I'm going to make impatient people unhappy, but to slow that traffic down going through, taking a little bit longer to get through downtown from, one end of it to the other is not going to ruin anybody's day or kill their business. But the lack of a pedestrian-friendly, safe traveling downtown is definitely going to constrain and inhibit our business, because you won't ever put all the parking spaces exactly where they need to be. If you build a structured parking, it'll be in the wrong spot for somebody because they'll have to walk across busy streets. So we want people on the sidewalks, we want people walking, we want people enjoying the downtown. They've got to be able to do that safely, and it shouldn't take a fatality or several fatalities or serious injuries to get FDOT to realize we need their help.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah. I think the answer to slowing the traffic down on US 1 is pretty simple to me. We did something a long time ago that we should have never done, and that was we actually had angled parking downtown. You have angled parking, people are already slowing down because they were trying to find a parking space. Once we got rid of that, it became a speedway. And there's really no reason to slow down even though we would love for them to slow down. And the second part, when you talk about amenities, I just don't know of any amenities that's bringing me downtown. The only amenity that brings me downtown is City Hall, and that's pretty sad. I, of course, am one who believes that we need another City Hall for sure. We actually have the oldest building, City Hall, in Brevard County, and we've outgrown this thing. And it costs millions of dollars to do it, but we need to be thinking about the future for sure. As far as the amenities is concerned, and I know I'm going to get a big laugh. You bring a Chick-fil-A down here, and everybody will be here for sure. So, and that's kind of interesting, you know, but that's exactly what would happen. We don't have a reason to come downtown. And I've seen many times when we've had functions on the weekend, most of the stores are closed, which I never can understand. Because in my mind, the stores are more of a hobby than actually wanting to make money. And purpose of business is to make money. Therefore, you need to be open when people are coming downtown. So the challenge I think we actually have is the fact that we have to bring businesses that want to do business downtown and want to be open. And you know, it's nothing like an entrepreneur who's trying to bring in something new, something challenging, and something that people can talk about to allow them to say, hey, I want to go downtown to see this. I believe that if we had, like what they have in Winter Park, a food, what do you call it, a farmer's market, with all types of things in the open farmer's market, I think would certainly help, along with the art district, to me, would be a positive thing. But we've got to slow the traffic down, but you're not going to slow the traffic down if nobody wants to park downtown because there's nothing to come see downtown. So we've definitely got to do a better job there. And, you know, the big question we all have is where's all this money going to come from, right? And the CRA only has limited funds. And so we definitely need some developers to come and partner with us and, you know, come up with a plan that we both can benefit with. Having a business partner with the government is a win-win in my experience. Of course, the business has to make money, but you know the people will get some of the amenities that they want, but it costs money, and nobody wants their taxes to go up in order to pay for these things. So, correct. You know, we got to bring something that is going to bring people down here and make them excited, and then they tell their friends, and their friends tell their friends from out of town, and then they come. Because right now, the only thing that is bringing people downtown and in Titusville is a lunch. And that's been our history. But once that's over, what do people do? They leave. And we got to stop that.
Member Robinson.
Uptown, Midtown, and I guess you're going to call it the south side of downtown. I think you got to bring them all together. If you start at one end, you got to have a continual view of something attracting the customer from Garden Street, all to Julia Street, all the way down to the new rental car unit. You have to have just a continual view. There's some places after you relieve, basically Midtown, I think I'm calling it correct, you have some things that are not pleasing to the eye. So if you're going to grow it, you have to grow it from Uptown, Midtown, and just make it a one continual, beautiful path, and put shops and restaurants and everything in there, so someone or the visitors to the area can just walk from one place, and that distance of parking will be eliminated because they will have a view every step of the way. That's my input. That's what I think.
Okay.
Breaker. Vice Mayor again.
Yeah, just one thing. You brought something to my mind, and
Bang.
You're trying to say, wow, trying to embarrass me with all these people. You can't embarrass me like that. I'm going to pray for you, young man. The one thing that I've noticed, when we want to go someplace, we don't mind walking. You think about anyone who goes to a Magic game. We will walk 2 miles to go to see somebody play. But when it comes down to having this area, if we can't see the venue, then we don't have the parking. And there is a perception that there is no parking downtown, when there is a lot of parking. It's just not right in front of the building that you want to be in.
Right.
So, and besides, you know, I really believe we all need to walk a whole lot more than what we're doing anyhow.
Member Aker.
Yeah, from a parking standpoint, I just want to revisit that. I'll take a gander at different times during the day, and I'll look at the back commons, which has 85 parking spaces. I maybe see 3 parking spaces available at most any time during the day. The main parking lot between the Playhouse and between north and southbound US 1, I think that has 52 parking spaces in there. Hell, I've got 28 employees that park in that parking space, so it's gonna take up. There's not a lot of spaces sitting in there, 4 or 5 available during the day. My back parking lot, 28 parking spaces, 1 or 2 available anytime during the day. So as far as in the core business district, I would beg to differ that we'd have a big parking problem. City Hall, yes, has some parking available at City Hall, not considered part of the core business district. But that's a tough nut to crack. It's hard to say. We used to have parallel parking down on US 1. I don't think angle parking works. You'd be getting lots of rear ends that occur down there. The original plan was for US 1 to have a curve in it. That's what they sold us on the CRA. They built the road and there was no curve in it before you got to downtown. I don't know what happened to that. It just disappeared magically. I think you could do something with Julia Street, that cut through there. I think there's a potential for parking and parking expansion that maybe that encompasses Julia Street, and there's some land opportunities in that area that might potentially net out 20 or 30 more parking spaces, which would be a lot in the downtown core business district. So I'm just going to revisit that parking. I would beg to differ that parking on Broad Street just doesn't count. Parking at City Hall is just a little too far removed. That my preference be work on that. And as you enter into the downtown district, you come in off of South Street. That intersection northbound South US 1, that's probably not setting our best foot forward as far as an entry into our whole downtown district. So I think that intro area is a tough one for us to deal with.
Member Ball.
Yeah, just to go back and revisit 2 things. One, with respect to the parking, I'll just say that the theater leasing the Florida East Coast vacant lot that's been locked away from everybody for all these years is going to add somewhere between 60 and 70 spaces. And we're incurring that cost. We're taking that on to help because we realize we'll be eventually generating a lot more traffic to the downtown. 39,000 people coming downtown to our venue is not inconsequential. So I would say that launches happen frequently now. The Playhouse venue is operating every weekend, 3 days, 4 days. And the challenge is that you bring the people down and they've got nowhere else to go once they get down here. So we need to extend the stay down to 3 to 4 hours in the downtown. And again, it's going to be a matter of calming traffic and reorienting people to go from east to west instead of everything's north to south. With all due respect to the vice mayor and the cost of undoing what we did with US 1 would be probably pretty exorbitant, compared to other alternatives for where you could spend that capital. So whether it was the right decision or the wrong decision, it looks nice, and those businesses along there have taken advantage of the wider sidewalks and put tables out there, and we just have to make sure a car doesn't careen into them. I think there's practical solutions that maybe don't have to cost that much money if FDOT will just cooperate with us to put more lights in the crosswalks and just slow people down, maybe change the speed limit. And somebody will get mad at me for saying, hey, it's going to take you a little longer to get through the downtown, but for those that come down and enjoy it then in a pedestrian friendly environment, they're going to thank us for
being assertive with the jurisdictional authority to say, we're not going to wait till people get killed to warrant a stoplight or a crossing. We're gonna force you to do it now.
All right, any other comments from council? Is this presentation or are we? Yeah, I get that. I'm looking over here to the city attorney for guidance. Do I continue on or am I able to say this is a presentation and there's no vote?
According to your agenda, you're to provide input to the consultant who's preparing the update. So if you're asking for that input, then would it be appropriate to get cards to assist you?
Call the card, please.
One card, Stan Johnson.
Thanks, sir. Thank you very much. That was outstanding. I appreciate it. A lot there.
Thank you very
A
much.
whole lot there.
I don't need a card. Stan Johnston, and you know, I've been a resident here for over 50 years, and I've seen some things come and go, like the Indian River Festival, the Birding Festival, the shrimping, fishing from the pier. We used to have scuba store here too. When I came here, I used to. That's where I learned scuba diving. I went numerous places from Titusville to scuba diving, and so we had a lot of things that were lost. We used to even have seahorses in the river, and now. So when we're talking about the CRA, I believe that some of this CRA is complementary to our gateway to nature and space, and we've lost a lot of that. I believe that something is I disagree with a number of people in saying that when they say that septic tanks, and muck, and so forth like that, because we have degradation not just of our river, but we also have it upstream. And for example, I saw a mole cricket for the first time. I haven't seen a mole cricket in years, and I just saw one the other day. We just don't have the bees like we used to have, the moths, the bats. We have much pesticides and herbicides, and when we have the pesticides and herbicides, we lose the diversity. I remember going over the river one time, low-flying an airplane, and seeing a large stingray, about that big. Well, maybe about that big. It was a big one, but didn't see anything else, hardly. So, and today when I look at the river from up in some 8-story building, I look down the river, and there's times I've been able to see almost nothing in the river when it's clear. So we've got a problem there. And as far as the parking go, is right outside. You can look out these windows. We have spaces that we could use parking along here because it used to be a US 1, FDOT right away along here. And we could do that. So we could go ahead and make them spaces. We've got this street in the middle of this, between the parking lot and over here, between City Hall and just north of City Hall. We can close that street down. We can make more parking in there. There's many opportunities that we're not doing. What we've done is we made a bikeway and took away all kinds of parking spaces over there on Indian River Avenue, numerous, where we used to have our Indian River Festival. So times have changed, and I don't have a lot of the answers, but I'm real disappointed about some of the losing the Indian River Festival and so much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anybody else that has any feedback before we move on? All right, we move on from there. All right, petitions and requests, CRA petitions and requests.
I have some cards.
Oh, say again?
There's cards for it. Hannah Carnes.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay, I got you. We're good. Thank you. I got it.
Not expecting this many people, so now I'm like super nervous. Hannah Carnes, I own Sunrise Bread Company. I want to add that I love downtown. I know that the Playhouse is a huge benefit. I believe we're a huge benefit to the downtown area also.
The concern I have at this moment is that we don't have access to the parking spots that we do own, right next to our building. They're being blocked, and so I'm trying to, in the downtown area, I feel like we're a huge community. I love redevelopment. I want more businesses to come down there, obviously. It helps my business when everybody's open, you know, every building is taken up. But we have a one-way into our parking lot from southbound, right, southbound, US 1. And right now, the other one is being blocked. What Peggy from the city has said, that we don't know who owns the property for the easement is what we're calling it, or how we would normally get into our parking lot. It's kind of up in the air right now who owns that, so they're getting a survey. My ask from you is to help me come up with some sort of solution to figure out who owns this property and get us a way into our parking spot like we've already addressed. Parking's already hard in the downtown area. We own a handicap parking spot in our parking lot that we cannot access right now. People are coming in the wrong way into our parking spot because that's the only way you can go in, and then you have to go out the exact same way in a one-way drive. It's dangerous. We're running into these issues all the time. Like Dr. Aker said, and I totally agree with him. We have a big business. We have a lot of people coming in and out. Our parking lots are always full, especially on the weekends. You will not find a parking spot at all close to us. And from my perspective, or someone that's handicapped, it would be very difficult for them to get to our business. In fact, it just deters them from even coming to downtown because there's nowhere to park. For us, if we have any deliveries or anything close to, you know, sometimes I'm bringing in 32 gallons of milk at the same time, and parking at Julia Street and carrying 32 gallons of milk to my business is just, it's just ridiculous. And I just feel like we need some type of solution, like I said, so.
City Attorney, is there anything you can add to this? Clearly, I don't have, or we don't have the legal aspects of that, and I don't know that you do, but.
Yeah. We have seen surveys of that area that do reference a 4-foot easement and then another 8-foot piece that we do have a deed from. We've provided that to our surveyor, and we are waiting for the surveyor to look at that. But other than that, it is right. It's an interesting piece of property because you do have one property owner that owns a lot of that, and right in the middle of it is that 8 feet. So she is correct. The surveyor is looking at that. But there is an easement, and there's another 8-foot deed to the city that runs right behind the Cafe Chocolat building. That's why I can identify it, that runs through that lot. The question is where exactly it ends and where it's located based on the surveys. But I know they've turned it over to our city surveyor to assist us in doing that based on the legal descriptions. And
Clearly, they're having problems getting people into, or at least access to their business. Is there anything that we can do? And it's a very CRA event here because we're talking about parking and we're talking about access, and this all hits all of that. And is there anything that we can do? And if there is not at this time, is there a time frame of something we can do to either, I don't know about the word intervene because I'm not sure we can do that, but is there something we can do, or outside, if we do a survey, then what happens?
certainly there is development going on, and there's permits and there's aspects of development that I would defer to our community development group as far as how that's being conducted and the ability to provide access. But as far as from a city perspective and the ability to tell somebody what to do with their property, we have limits, but we can secure openings related to the city-owned property. So that's what we're evaluating, is where are those lines, and provide as much assistance as we can to make sure that that city-owned property is accessible to the public. So
Member Stokel.
I've been digging into this one. So my question, Hannah, if we find through the survey that you just don't have access to that parking anymore, obviously people have said, oh, well, just pull in that way, and there's no way to get out then.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a backup plan that of something that you guys could potentially do with that piece? If there's just, my concern is we find out that you don't have access, like somebody else owns that property, which, you know, once it opens up, great, but what happens if you're in this situation again? Is there something else that you guys would potentially want to do with that if we cannot legally give you access to that parking?
Right. So my concern is, you know, this has been a very long construction process. So we've already gone through this 4 years ago, and it's happening again. So I want to prevent it from future happenings. That's my goal. I think that there's like a city easement, which I brought pictures, right behind our parking spots, right? That's considered city easement, but if it leads to nothing, I don't understand how that can be a city easement, is my point. Because like, why do we even have the parking spots there if we can't access them? Which is what is being said, or debated, I guess I should say. I would prefer to just own the entire thing than make outdoor seating there. It would go with the CRA. I think it benefits everyone. I don't want to shut down more parking, but if that's what has to be done, then I own 0 parking, Matt Utter owns 0, Pier 13 owns 0, Hot Point owns 0, the apartment above Hot Point owns 0. And that puts us in a very tricky situation where no one in the downtown area has parking, and we all have, you know, we want to bring people in, but where do we put them?
Where do you go?
Yeah. That's it just makes no sense to have parking spots on the side of my building that I own that I can't access.
I'd have to second that.
And I think that this was built, how long did we say we were talking about these buildings? 1910. I think that's what I was like, how was this allowed? Well, it was built in 1910 when.
Right. Well, it's always been open also. Everybody just thinks of it as an easement, right? But now there's construction going on, which I'm totally for. But I think there are solutions to get us into our parking spot that are not being allowed at this moment just because. For example, there was no construction going on the weekend that they closed it. They told us on a Friday, well, I guess they told you on a Wednesday, but then the owner of the contracting place called us on a Friday, shut it down, no construction the entire weekend, and they started on Monday halfway, I guess I would say. It definitely could have been open. But things like that, it's like, why? When you know the weekends are the busiest for us. Dr. Aiken can attest to that. We are very busy downtown Saturday, Sunday. You guys want us to stay open. You want us to have a thriving environment, but things make it very difficult to do that.
Let me jump, Mr. Aker, Member Aker in here.
The easement that you're talking about goes along your property, then it does a left-handed turn if you're going into your property, and goes over to Main Street. But the problem really is trying to get access from northbound US 1 to your property, and we don't have the rights to go to the owner and say that, but we could, as an organization, perhaps ask. Can we make an ask of the building owner and of the contractor, say, hey, when you can, let's just close it down for those periods where you've got to bring the crane in. Let's close it down X amount of time and just ask them. Because this construction is going to come to an end. Once it comes to the end, parking is not going to be nearly a problem when they open up the parking lot, but behind that, the new construction and beside Mad Utter. So I think it's just a matter of us saying please.
I think the apartment owner
From a city or a CRA standpoint, just, can you help us out? Here's our problem. Would you please? I'm pretty certain the building owner would be on board for that. It's just a matter of getting that, relayed to the contractor.
I think from what the city, who I've talked to, she's open to being more reasonable, and the contractor is being unreasonable in my perspective. So they had the crane there one day. I understand shutting it down. We have huge cranes, but now we haven't had a crane all week, and there's just a big dirt pile right in front of our building, and that's the only reason it's kind of blocking. I think there's another solution, even if it's from Hopkins into our parking lot, that could be addressed if things were moved and just a fence was put up just for us to get access to our building.
Yeah, I certainly, I think everybody would say this doesn't make sense. You have parking back there and you can't get to it. I certainly have, understand your frustration. I don't think that I know what the solution is, and it sounds like there's been some research, if you can go back to 1910 to find out when this was done. But is there any, because obviously I'd like to hear a follow-up to this, and I don't want to just send you away and say, well, good luck.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't really have an answer, and it sounds like we're waiting on
Survey.
Survey.
Yes, sir.
And so what do we do from there? I mean, we can't, what do we? And are we allowed as an organization to ask? Because I've heard this before where we as a city can do this, can't do that. So I'm a little more leery of those things than I used to be.
Right. Partly, the city manager has been involved with staff and Peggy particularly in discussions with that very request of, please do this, please accommodate that. We certainly as a group give the direction that we'd like to see that happen. Limited on your ability to take legal action, of course, on private property, but you can certainly say we would encourage that.
Well, I'm all for us as a group, but if that's what we do here, I don't know if we need to take a vote on that or just call it a recommendation. All right, thank you. That would be our recommendation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Anybody else for petitions and requests?
Can I make a
Yes.
petition or request?
I don't know. I've never had that happen before.
Well, I need Officer Taylor if I could.
Where is he?
John just wait.
Oh.
This won't be, I swear it won't be long.
Should have been.
Could have been.
Oh, well, wait, I don't know what we're doing here. Hold on a second. Come on in, Willie Taylor. Officer Taylor.
Everybody say hi, Officer Taylor.
That wasn't weird.
So, Officer Taylor, I think you have to stand behind the podium.
Yeah, I can hear you. Put your right hand up.
Oh, are you? Yeah, really. Do you solemnly swear?
No.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know. I don't know. Officer Taylor, I got a long email about you. Long email.
This one wasn't bad this time, was it?
This one was from a friend of yours by the name of Sidney Terrett. And he said some really nice things about you.
Hold on.
And for
Stop,
those that
boy.
don't know Willie, he is a boxer. You were in the Junior Olympics,
Yes, and I did the 99 Olympic trials.
the trials. And he started a boxing club here for kids that needed guidance. And it's been in operation since 2016.
Yes, ma'am.
So I talked to a friend of mine, sent that information over to Orlando, to Channel 16. Yeah. And you know what they said?
What?
They said, you want our Making a Change award.
Making a difference.
Making a difference.
Making a difference award.
So, so they want to come over and interview you next week and present you with the award.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But we had to surprise you. We had to surprise you. And not only that,
I thank you. I thank
thought,
you.
you know,
very
there are
much.
people in our town that we need to know about, we need to celebrate.
I
So,
appreciate that.
you're here.
I really do.
Good job,
Thank you
Willie.
guys for all.
Willie! Good job.
Just so you know, man, throughout growing up, I'm born and raised here, Titusville. This community means a lot to me. I'd lay down my life 1,000 times for the people of this town. Know that. I thank you all because each one of you have played a very special role. Definitely you, Mayor Diesel, me growing up and you mentoring me along the way. When times that I should have been pushed to the wayside, and you've always been there and telling me to continue to go, you know, no matter what, and my father. And, you know, that right there did so much to me, and that I see our young gentleman, our young man, and I realized the problems that we have in this town. And so one day my father was like, hey, what are you going to do about it? You know, what can you do? And the only thing I know how to do is to fight and keep fighting, you know, for what's right.
That's what you do.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Willie Taylor.
Thank you, sir.
All right, brother.
You have to have some good news.
Well, on that happy note, we ought to call it a night. Stan. Yeah, I know. I know.
Oh, God.
Stan Johnston, and I'm going to repeat some things that you don't like hearing.
Clock.
But the thing is, I'm not getting responses, and therefore, so I come back again saying the same thing, and that is that, and I'm going to close it with another example. We're having a fresh example of the city of Titusville refusing to respond, refusing to communicate with me, and it just aggravates problems. But as you know, one of the problems I've come across, and that is that I would post signs of people being sprayed with sewage, like at Spaceview Park. A sign like this, Spaceview Park, and also at Sandpoint Park. Well, I did that in February of last year, and it so happens is that the city of Titusville would have had the parks come by and take my signs down, didn't replace it with anything, so the spraying continued of sewage onto people at Spaceview Park, and of course it did also at the Sandpoint Park. So I have these signs, and I have this sign also that shows spraying of sewage of people at Sandpoint Park. This has been ignored, and now I have it just in this past February. That was the February of last year. This past February, I discovered that a survey for SNJ Oaks Townhomes was a fake survey. It's not an erroneous survey, it was a fake survey. And I got that information from City of Titusville information, survey information. And so as a civil engineer, registered civil engineer, and as a surveyor in active license, I'm required to report to the state. So I report to the state and to the city, and the city did what? The city, for this $10 million project, SNJ Oaks, I reported this fraud, this fake survey, and the city manager, I called him many times, I called other people many times, city council members and so forth, nothing, no response whatsoever. So what we have now is SNJ Oaks is recently approved, and it's going to be sold. So it's got a fake survey for 28 townhomes, over $10 million project, a fake survey, and we're going to have a new owner. So the question is what is city manager? What is our mayor? What are we going to tell these new owners when they find out that they have a fake survey? I'm bringing this question to you. I've put it to you in email. I've talked to a number of people. I'm talking about months ago. I continue to tell you and expose to you it's a fake survey, and you do nothing. So what is the new owner going to do?
Thanks, sir.
What's the new owner going to do?
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else on, I'm already getting confused. Petitions and requests for CRA? I see none.
One more item, just executive
Okay, thank you,
director's
sir.
report for your information only and subject to your questions.
Yeah, thank you. There was that next step, wasn't there? I was ready to go.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to say 7:35. We will start the next meeting. Thank you.